Tonight, I want to share a simple Buddhist truth. One kind thought can change the direction of a life, not because the universe rewards you like a deal, but because your mind becomes the first cause. The Buddha taught that the mind leads our experience, like a wheel following the ox that pulls it. When a harsh thought rises, suffering grows. When a gentle thought rises, the heart softens, and your next step becomes wiser. This is how destiny changes, not in one dramatic moment, but in one wholesome intention, repeated. So let's begin with a story. One small kindness, one big turn. On a cold evening, a young man named Daniel finished a long shift and boarded the last train home. He wasn't a bad person, but life had hardened him in small ways. Tight deadlines, bills, old disappointments, the quiet pressure to make it. His mind ran like a motor, even when his body was tired. He often told himself, "I don't have the energy for anyone else." That night, the train was nearly empty. Daniel took a seat and stared at his phone. 2 stops later, an older woman stepped on, carrying a heavy bag. She looked around for a seat, hesitated, then stood near the door as the train rattled forward. Daniel saw her out of the corner of his eye. A thought rose immediately. Someone else will help. Another thought followed. I'm exhausted. Then something softer appeared, quiet, almost embarrassing in its simplicity. Stand up. Let her sit. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel spiritual. He felt resistance, but he stood anyway. He offered his seat with a small nod. The woman's shoulders dropped as if a hidden weight had been lifted. "Thank you," she said, voice tired but warm. Daniel nodded again and held the pole. That should have been the end. But the mind is never just one thought. It's a chain. As Daniel stood, he noticed something. His chest felt a little less tight. Not magically healed, just less clenched. It surprised him. He had expected kindness to cost him energy. Instead, it returned something like the heart, remembering it can be human without being drained. A few minutes later, the train jolted. The woman's bag tipped, and a small envelope slipped out onto the floor. Daniel bent down and picked it up. He was about to hand it back when he saw it was stuffed with cash and papers, rent money, maybe. The envelope had an address written in shaky handwriting. For 1 second, another thought flashed, dark, quick, tempting. No one saw. You could keep it. You need money, too. Daniel's mouth went dry. He hated that his mind could even go there. But the thought was real. He didn't choose it. It appeared. Zen would say, thoughts arise like weather. Buddhism would say, the mind has seeds, some wholesome, some unwholesome. What matters is what you water. He looked at the woman's face. She was staring out the window, tired, unaware. He imagined her getting home, searching her bag, panic rising. He imagined her missing rent, missing medicine, calling family with shame in her throat. Then the earlier moment returned, the moment he stood up. A simple, clean intention. almost like a candle flame in wind, small, but steady enough. He tapped her gently and handed the envelope. "I think this fell out," he said. The woman's eyes widened. She clutched it and pressed it to her chest as if it were her heart. Her lips trembled. "Oh, oh my God," she whispered. "That's my rent. That's everything. I didn't even notice." She didn't make a big scene. She didn't lecture him about morality. She just looked at him the way someone looks at water when they've been thirsty. Daniel felt something shift again, something deeper than pride. It was relief. Not the relief of being praised, but the relief of not becoming someone he didn't want to be. The woman asked, "Where are you getting off?" Daniel told her. It turned out she lived near his stop. She asked what he did for work. He told her he was trying to move into a better job, but felt stuck. She nodded slowly. "My niece works in HR at a company nearby," she said. "If you want, I can ask her if they're hiring." Daniel almost laughed at how life can turn on a hinge. He didn't stand up to get a job lead. He didn't return the envelope to earn luck. He did it because one small, wholesome thought beat one unwholesome thought in the quiet battle inside his chest. This is what Motnim Thien, Doi Kavan really means. Not superstition. Not bargaining with fate. A change of mind creates a change of direction. A change of direction changes what you touch, who you meet, what you become. The Buddha taught that intention matters. In simple language, what you mean, what you choose, what you feed. In the mind, these are seeds. When you plant seeds of kindness, you plant conditions for peace. When you plant seeds of greed or cruelty, you plant conditions for fear. A short line often attributed to the Buddha's teaching expresses the spirit clearly. Mind is the forerunner of all states. When your mind leads with goodwill, your actions follow with less regret. But here is the most important part. The good thought isn't always sweet or easy. Sometimes it feels like effort. Sometimes it feels like going against old habits. Sometimes it feels like a quiet refusal to harden. Daniel still had stress. His life didn't become perfect overnight. But that evening gave him something more valuable than a lucky break. It gave him proof that he could choose differently. He wasn't trapped by his worst impulses. He wasn't owned by his fatigue. He could be tired and still be kind. That is inner freedom. Now, how does this become healing for you tonight? Because many people listening are not battling a dramatic moral decision, they're battling the small daily hardness that steals sleep, resentment, self-judgment, overthinking, the feeling that the world is heavy and you are alone inside it. The teaching is not, be perfect. The teaching is, catch one moment, catch one thought. When you notice a harsh thought about yourself or someone else, don't panic. Don't shame yourself. Just see it clearly. Then ask gently, what would a wholesome thought be right now? Wholesome doesn't mean fake positivity. It means non-harming. A wholesome thought can sound like, Let me pause before I speak. I can be firm without being cruel. I'm human. I'm learning. I don't need to replay this tonight. May I be at peace. Even one wholesome thought changes your nervous system. It softens the face. It lengthens the exhale. It makes space in the chest. And that space is where sleep enters. So here is a simple Zen-style meditation you can do right now, in bed, to plant one wholesome thought before the night ends. Let your body settle. Relax your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now bring to mind one place where you've been tense, one worry, one regret, one irritation. Don't pick the biggest problem. Pick one manageable knot. Name it softly. Tightness. Now ask, what is one wholesome thought I can plant here? Choose one phrase. May I soften? May I release? May I not add harm? On the inhale, receive the phrase. On the exhale, let it spread through your chest like warm light. If the mind argues, that's okay. Don't fight. Return, like a candle staying lit, like clouds passing. Then end with one quiet vow, simple, human. Tonight, I choose one kind thought, not 1,000, one. Because one wholesome thought is a beginning, and beginnings change the road. The good thought no one sees. Karma starts in secret. Some of the most powerful good thoughts are the ones no one ever notices. No camera, no applause, no proof. You're a good person. Just a quiet moment where you could choose bitterness, but you choose something cleaner. Buddhism pays close attention to these hidden moments because they are where karma begins. Not as superstition, but as psychology and cause and effect. What you repeat inside becomes who you become outside. Here's a story that Zen teachers often tell in different forms. In a small town, there lived a woman named Maya who ran a modest food stall. She worked hard, saved carefully, and kept her life simple. One afternoon, a new vendor opened across the street. Their prices were lower. Their signs were brighter. Their customers were louder. Within weeks, Maya's stall became quiet. Maya tried to stay calm. She told herself, "This is life, but the mind has its own weather." A sharp thought appeared. "They're stealing my customers." Then another. "They don't deserve it." Then the darkest one. "I hope they fail." Maya didn't say these thoughts out loud. She smiled at customers. She nodded politely at the new vendor. But inside, she felt sour, like something spoiled. At night, she couldn't sleep. She would lie in bed imagining the other stall shutting down, imagining people returning to her, imagining victory. But victory in the mind did not bring peace in the body. Her jaw stayed tight. Her breath stayed shallow. Her stomach churned. One evening, she went to visit an elderly monk who was known for simple counsel. She didn't go to talk about business. She went because her own heart felt ugly to her. She told the monk, "I'm ashamed of my mind. I look kind on the outside, but inside, I'm full of poison." The monk listened without judgment. Then he asked, "When the poison appears, what do you do?" Maya said, "I argue with it. I tell myself I shouldn't feel that way. Then I feel worse." The monk nodded. "Arguing with poison just splashes it," he said. "You don't have to pretend it's not there. You have to stop drinking it." Then he gave her a practice. He didn't ask her to be cheerful. He didn't ask her to like the competitor. He asked for one thing. When you see their stall, silently wish them one simple good thing. One. Not to be holy, not to be fake, just one seed. Maya stared at him. "Why should I wish them good?" she asked. "They're hurting my business." The monk smiled softly. "Because the wish is not only for them," he said. "It is for your mind." This is a very Buddhist point. The mind that wishes harm becomes a mind that lives in harm. Even if the other person never knows, you are the one breathing the smoke. And smoke ruins sleep. Maya left the monastery feeling unconvinced. But that night, in bed, she tried the practice in her imagination. She pictured the competitor's stall and whispered inwardly, "May they be safe." Just that. Immediately, her mind protested, "No, they're the problem." She noticed the protest, and she repeated the seed again. "May they be safe." She didn't feel warm and holy. She felt awkward, but she also noticed something. As she repeated the phrase, the anger loosened a little. Not gone, just loosened. The next day, she walked to her stall, and there it was, the competitor's bright sign, the busy crowd. Poison rose quickly. Look at them, taking everything. Maya remembered the monk's instruction. Not out of sweetness, out of desperation to stop suffering. She whispered inside, "May they be safe." Then she added almost unintentionally, "May I be safe too." That second sentence changed the whole practice. She realized her anger wasn't only about money. It was about fear. Fear of losing stability. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being forgotten. So she practiced both wishes, quietly, daily. Something began to shift. First, she slept a little better. Not perfect, but better, because her mind was no longer rehearsing hatred every night. Second, her creativity returned. When she stopped burning energy in resentment, she had energy for improvement. She adjusted her menu. She made her stall cleaner. She greeted customers with genuine warmth, not forced politeness. She asked regulars what they liked. She rebuilt trust. A month later, something unexpected happened. One evening, the competitor came to her stall alone, without the crowd, and looked embarrassed. "I wanted to say something," the competitor said. "I'm sorry if I hurt your business. I didn't think about how it would affect you. I was just trying to survive." Maya felt her old bitterness rise, but it wasn't as strong now. She could see the human being in front of her. She could see the fear in their eyes, the same fear she had been carrying. She nodded slowly. "I was angry," she admitted, "but I understand." The competitor hesitated, then said, "I also have an extra freezer. If you want to store your ingredients sometimes, you can use it. Maya didn't expect that. She didn't create kindness to receive kindness. But when her mind became less poisonous, her world became less hostile. Her relationships became possible. This is karma in a very grounded way. Inner conditions shape outer outcomes, not magically, but naturally. Now, the key point of this story is not that kindness will make your competitor help you. That would be another kind of attachment. The key point is that the good thought happened in secret. No one saw it. It was internal. And it still changed everything, because it changed Maya's inner environment first. When your inner environment changes, you move differently. You speak differently. You see opportunities you couldn't see when you were clenched. Your face softens. People feel safer around you. Your own body feels safer too. And safety is what sleep requires. In Buddhist teaching, we often talk about cultivating wholesome states. Loving kindness, compassion, equanimity. These are not decorations. They are medicine. So let's make this practical for your audience tonight. Maybe your competitor isn't a business rival. Maybe it's a coworker who triggered you, a family member who always criticizes you, an ex you can't stop resenting, a friend who disappointed you, even a version of yourself you keep blaming. The mind wants to curse them in silence. It wants to replay harm. It wants to hold a grudge like a shield. Zen asks, does this shield protect you or poison you? So try the secret good thought practice tonight. Pick one person you're resentful toward. Just one. Don't pick the biggest wound if that feels too hard. Pick a manageable one. Then whisper inwardly, may you be safe. If that's too much, start smaller. May you not suffer, or even, may I not add harm. Then add, may I be safe too. This keeps it real. It includes your boundaries. It doesn't deny your pain. It simply stops feeding the poison. Now bring it into the body. Breathe out long. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel your jaw unclench. You are not approving what happened. You are freeing your mind from carrying it all night. To close this section, here's a short guided meditation you can read slowly. Lie down. Feel the bed beneath you. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind one person or situation that has been tightening your heart. Notice the tightness. Don't judge it. Now plant one small seed. May you be safe. May I be safe. Repeat on each exhale. If resistance appears, that's okay. Return again. Let the seed be small. Seeds don't look powerful at first, but they change the forest over time. And end with this simple truth. A good thought in secret can change my whole direction. The moment before you speak, one gentle thought saves a whole day. Most people think changing your fate requires a big decision. Quitting a job, moving to a new city, ending a relationship, starting a new life. But Buddhism often points to something smaller and more real. Your life doesn't only turn on major events. It turns on the moment before you speak, the moment before you react, the moment before you harden. That moment is where a single wholesome thought can change everything. Here's a story about a sentence that almost became a wound. A father named Kevin came home late after a brutal day at work. The kind of day where you feel used up before you even step through the door. His mind was still at the office deadlines, money pressure, unanswered emails. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to explain. He just wanted silence. When he walked into the kitchen, he saw a mess. Crumbs on the counter, a cup knocked over, a small puddle of juice spreading across the floor. His first reaction was heat fast, sharp, familiar. Then he saw his daughter, maybe 7 years old, standing still, with wide eyes. She held a paper towel in her hand, frozen like a deer in headlights. She was already blaming herself. She was already expecting the storm. Kevin's throat tightened. A harsh thought rose up. Why can't you be careful for once? And right behind it came the sentence he had inherited from the past words spoken to him when he was little. You always ruin everything. That sentence was ready. It was sitting on his tongue like a match about to strike. But then something else appeared. Small, quiet, almost like a soft light in a dark room. Not a perfect thought, not a holy thought. She's scared. Don't make this bigger than it is. Kevin felt the battle inside himself. One part wanted to release the day's pain through anger. Another part saw the child's face and knew what anger would do. He remembered the way certain words from adults had lived inside him for years, long after the mess was cleaned up. He took one breath, not a dramatic breath, just enough to create a gap. In that gap, another wholesome thought arrived. Be the kind of adult you needed. So instead of yelling, he knelt down. He looked at his daughter and said, quietly, "Hey, it's okay. Accidents happen." Her shoulders dropped so hard it almost looked like she was collapsing with relief. Kevin grabbed more paper towels and helped her wipe the juice. They worked together, slow and quiet. No punishment, no shame, just cleanup. Then his daughter said something that surprised him. She whispered, "I thought you were going to be mad." Kevin felt pain in his chest, not anger, but recognition. A child who expects anger is a child who has learned fear. Even if he hadn't been harsh often, she had learned something from his tired tone, his rushed answers, the tension he carried home like a backpack. He swallowed and said, "I was tired, but you're more important." That sentence changed the temperature of the room. Later that night, after bedtime stories and a small hug that lasted longer than usual, Kevin sat alone on the couch. He realized something quietly profound. A single wholesome thought, "Don't make it bigger," had protected 2 lives. It protected his daughter from shame. It protected him from regret. It protected the relationship from becoming a battlefield. And it protected his sleep. Because here's a truth many people don't realize until they feel it. What keeps you awake at night is not only stress, it's regret. It's the echo of words you wish you could take back. It's the fear that you are becoming someone you don't want to be. In Buddhism, intention matters. The mind leads the action. A brief line from the Dhammapada expresses the spirit. If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, happiness follows. Paraphrased from the Dhammapada's teaching on mind and consequences. It's not saying life becomes perfect. It's saying your inner purity, your wholesome intention, creates a cleaner path. Kevin's day could have ended in shouting. His night could have ended in guilt. But one wholesome thought interrupted the chain. This is how destiny changes in everyday life, by breaking the chain. This is how destiny changes in everyday life, by breaking the chain. Because anger is often a chain reaction. You come home tired, you see a mess, you feel disrespected, you react, the other person reacts. The room fills with heat. Then you carry it to bed. Then tomorrow begins with leftover tension. A single wholesome thought, one pause, can stop the chain. Now, to make this teaching real for you tonight, we have to be honest. Sometimes we don't have the wholesome thought in time. Sometimes we react. Sometimes we say the thing. Buddhism doesn't deny that. It simply invites practice. Practice means you train the pause. Zen would call it returning. The Buddha would call it mindfulness. Either way, you're building a new habit in the nervous system. When heat rises, breathe first. So here is the heart of part A3. The most powerful kindness is often the one that happens before harm, before the harsh word, before the cold silence, before the sarcastic jab, before the passive-aggressive text, before you punish yourself in your mind. One wholesome thought can be as simple as, pause, not now. Be gentle. Choose peace. Don't add harm. If you plant that thought early enough, your whole day can turn. And if you plant it at night, your whole sleep can turn too. Because many people don't just speak harshly to others. They speak harshly to themselves. They replay their failures like a judge. They lie in bed and punish themselves with old scenes. That's also a moment before you speak, only the speech is internal. So tonight, the practice applies both ways. Before you speak outward and before you speak inward. If self-judgment arises, try one wholesome thought. I can learn without cruelty. That sentence is a form of compassion. It's also wisdom. Because cruelty doesn't teach well. Cruelty just drains you. Now let's turn this into a gentle meditation you can read in your video. Slow, close, and calming. Lie down and feel the bed supporting you. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now bring to mind a moment from today when you felt close to reacting. Maybe you did react. Maybe you didn't. Don't replay the whole movie. Just touch the feeling. Notice the heat. Notice the tightness. Now whisper inwardly, may I pause? May I choose a wholesome thought? On the next exhale, imagine a small space opening in your chest. the space where you can choose. If regret arises, don't punish yourself. Say softly, I learn. I begin again. Now choose one sentence to plant as your final seed for the night. Tonight, I do not add harm. Repeat it once more, then return to breath. Inhale. Here. Exhale. Now. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming a little more awake, one moment at a time, a little more gentle, a little more free. Because when a single kind thought shows up, it doesn't just change a conversation, it changes your identity. It proves you have choice, and choice is the doorway out of suffering. A kind thought toward yourself, the turn that breaks the cycle. When people hear one good thought, they often picture being kind to others. But Buddhism is also very clear. If you keep harming yourself in your own mind, your life stays heavy. Many people carry the sharpest cruelty inside self-judgment, shame, harsh labels, constant comparison. They may look fine on the outside, but inside, they live with a voice that never rests. And that voice steals sleep. So this section is about a kind thought that changes fate in a different way. A kind thought toward yourself, especially in the moments you feel like you failed. Here's a story about a woman named Lena. Lena was the type of person who tried hard. She cared. She over-delivered. She also overthought. When she made a mistake, her mind didn't just notice it, it punished her for it. One small error could become a whole night of self-attack. How could you be so careless? You always mess things up. Everyone will see you're not enough. One day, Lena made a mistake at work. Not a disaster, but enough to embarrass her. A client email went out with the wrong attachment. Her manager corrected it quickly, but Lena felt heat rush to her face. She smiled and said, "Sorry, my bad," and kept working. Inside, she was collapsing. That night, she lay in bed and replayed everything. She imagined people laughing. She imagined losing her job. She imagined her future shrinking. Her heart beat faster. Her stomach tightened. Her mind kept building punishment like a courtroom that never closes. At 2:11 a.m., Lena finally got out of bed and sat on the floor, exhausted. She didn't feel spiritual. She felt broken. On a shelf near her bed was a small book of Buddhist teachings she'd bought months ago but rarely opened. She didn't pick it up to become enlightened. She picked it up because she needed relief. She opened to a page she had underlined long ago. Hatred is never ended by hatred. Hatred is ended by love. A famous teaching from the Dhammapada in spirit and meaning. Lena stared at the line. She thought, yes, but I'm not hating anyone. I'm hating me. Then she realized, that still counts. Self-hatred is still hatred. It doesn't become holy because it's directed inward. It's still harm, and harm creates suffering. She sat there for a long time. Her mind tried to argue, if you don't punish yourself, you'll never improve. But deep down, she knew the punishment wasn't improving anything. It was draining her. It was making her afraid. It was turning her life into a constant audition for worthiness. Then, for the first time in a long time, a simple, kind thought appeared. Not dramatic, not emotional, just clear. I made a mistake. I am not a mistake. That sentence felt like water on fire. She didn't fully believe it at first, but she repeated it quietly. I made a mistake. I am not a mistake. Her breath slowed. Her shoulders dropped a little. The tightness in her chest softened. Not gone, but softened. She realized something. She had been treating herself like an enemy she had to control. But in Buddhism, the mind is not an enemy. It's a field. You plant seeds. You water what you want to grow. If she watered cruelty, cruelty would grow. If she watered kindness, clarity could grow. So she tried a small practice that night, one that many Buddhist teachers recommend. Metta for yourself, loving kindness. She placed a hand on her chest and whispered, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be peaceful. May I learn with kindness." At first, her mind mocked it. This is cheesy. But she kept going, not to sound poetic, but to change her inner climate. Something shifted. It wasn't magical. It was biological. Her nervous system stopped treating the mistake like a life or death threat. The more she softened, the less her mind raced. Eventually, she returned to bed. Sleep didn't crash into her like a miracle, but it came slowly, like a shy animal approaching a quiet hand. The next morning, Lena woke up tired, but different. Not because her life changed overnight, but because her relationship to herself changed. She felt more steady. She apologized again at work simply, without drama, and asked how to prevent the mistake next time. Her manager appreciated it. The day moved on. Here's the key. The mistake didn't destroy her. The self-hatred almost did. This is why one kind thought can change your fate. It interrupts the cycle of inner harm. In Buddhist teaching, we often talk about the second arrow. The first arrow is the mistake, the criticism, the embarrassment. The second arrow is the extra suffering you add through self-attack and rumination. Most sleeplessness is second arrow suffering. So Part A, 4 teaches a crucial truth for your audience. You can be accountable without being cruel. Accountability says, I'll learn. I'll adjust. Cruelty says, I'm worthless. Accountability leads to growth. Cruelty leads to exhaustion. Now, you might be thinking, but self-criticism motivates me. It might motivate short-term, like fear can make you run. But fear is expensive. It consumes rest, joy, creativity. Over time, it becomes burnout. Buddhism invites a different motivation, compassion plus wisdom. You learn because you care, not because you hate yourself. So what does one kind thought look like in real time? It can be, I'm allowed to be human. I can learn without punishment. This is hard, and I'm trying. I don't have to replay this tonight. May I be gentle with myself. These are not excuses. They are medicine. And here's something deeply practical. The way you speak to yourself at night becomes the tone of your next day. If you end the day in cruelty, you wake up braced. If you end the day in kindness, you wake up more open. That's changing fate in a very real way. Now, let's turn this into a guided meditation you can include in your video, gentle, simple, and sleep-friendly. Lie down and feel the bed supporting you. Let your body be heavy. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind one thing you're judging yourself for. Just one. Don't collect a list. Notice how your body reacts. Tight chest? Tight stomach? Fast mind? Now plant one kind thought. I made a mistake. I am not a mistake. Repeat it slowly. Let it sink into the exhale. Now offer yourself loving kindness. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be peaceful. May I learn with kindness. If resistance arises, don't fight it. Simply return. Kindness is a practice, not a performance. Then end with a vow. Tonight I stop adding harm. One wholesome thought toward yourself can change everything, not because it erases the past, but because it changes the way you carry it. And when the way you carry it changes, the road ahead changes too. One thought of compassion, turning anger into understanding. Anger is not always bad. Sometimes anger shows you a boundary. Sometimes it shows you something you care about. But anger can also become a fire that burns your sleep, your relationships, and your health, especially when it turns into bitterness and replay. Buddhism doesn't tell you to pretend you never feel anger. It teaches you how to meet anger with wisdom, so anger doesn't become your personality. And one wholesome thought right in the middle of heat can change the whole direction. Here's a story about 2 words that saved a marriage. A couple named Rachel and Tom were going through a rough season. Not because they didn't love each other, but because life was heavy. Money pressure, long work hours, a child who wasn't sleeping, constant fatigue. They had started speaking to each other in a tone that felt like sandpaper. Nothing big had to happen for a fight to start. A small comment could ignite the room. One evening, Rachel found a charge on their bank account that she didn't recognize. Her chest tightened immediately. She had been trying so hard to control spending. She felt fear rise, fear of instability. And fear often wears the mask of anger. Tom walked into the kitchen, exhausted, and Rachel held up her phone. "What is this?" she asked, voice sharp. Tom looked at the screen and shrugged. "It's nothing. I needed it." Rachel felt heat explode. Nothing? Her mind flashed to every moment she had felt alone in responsibility. She was about to say something that would cut deep, something like, "You never care," or "I can't trust you," or "You're selfish." Those sentences were ready. They were loaded with years. But then, in the smallest space between inhale and exhale, a different thought appeared. Not sweet, Not polite, just wise. He's tired, and I'm scared. That thought didn't excuse Tom. It didn't erase the problem, but it changed Rachel's posture. It moved her from attack to clarity. She took one breath. She softened her shoulders just slightly. Then she said something very different. "I'm scared," she said. "When I see unknown charges, my mind goes straight to panic. I need to feel safe." Tom's face changed. He looked less defensive. "I didn't realize," he said. "It was for the car something broke. I should have told you." They still needed to talk about spending and communication. But the fight didn't become war, because one wholesome thought, "I'm scared," turned anger into truth. This is a major Buddhist teaching. Underneath anger is often fear, hurt, or shame. Anger is the loud emotion, but it's not always the deepest one. When you identify the deeper feeling, the mind becomes more honest, and honesty creates connection. If Rachel had attacked, Tom would have defended. Defense would have escalated. The night would have ended with silence or sarcasm. Then both of them would have carried it to bed, replaying, blaming, bracing. But when Rachel met anger with one compassionate thought, she spoke from vulnerability instead of violence. That changed the karma of the moment, the cause and effect chain. Now, Buddhism calls this kind of practice right effort and right speech. It's not about being nice, it's about being skillful. A skillful mind doesn't pour fuel on fire. A skillful mind uses a small amount of awareness to reduce harm. This is what one good thought changes fate looks like in relationships. It looks like, what is the real feeling under this? Can I speak truth without cruelty? Can I pause before I throw the knife? Now let's be clear. Compassion does not mean you allow disrespect. Compassion does not mean you ignore real issues. Compassion means you protect your heart without hardening it. You set boundaries with clarity, not poison. In Rachel's case, she didn't say, "It's fine." She said, "I need safety." That is a boundary. It's also human. Now, maybe your anger isn't in a marriage. Maybe it's with family, coworkers, strangers online, or even yourself. The pattern is often the same. The mind is tense. A trigger appears. Anger rises. And words are ready. So the practice is to catch the moment early. Here's a simple Buddhist-inspired method you can teach your audience. Stop, feel, name, choose. Stop. Take one breath. Feel. Notice where anger lives. Jaw, chest, fists. Name. Anger is here. Choose. One wholesome thought. That wholesome thought can be, "I don't want to add harm. Let me speak from truth, not heat. What am I protecting? What do I really need?" When you choose that thought, the whole outcome changes. Not always perfectly, but enough to shift the direction. And here's the bedtime angle. Unresolved anger is one of the biggest thieves of sleep. Anger keeps the body activated. It keeps the mind rehearsing. It makes you feel like you must remain alert. So learning to soften anger before bed is a form of healing. Now, a short teaching from Buddhism that fits this moment. Anger is a hot coal. If you hold it to throw at someone, your hand burns first. This image is used often because it's true. You suffer first. You lose peace first. Your sleep is the first casualty. So tonight, if you're carrying anger, you don't need a dramatic forgiveness ceremony. Start smaller. Change one thought. Instead of, "They ruined everything," try, "This hurt me." Instead of, "I can't stand them," try, "I need boundaries." Instead of, "I hope they suffer," try, "I won't poison myself." That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Now, here is a guided meditation segment you can include at the end of this section, calming, simple, and grounded. Lie down. Relax your jaw. Unclench your hands. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind one situation that makes you angry. Just one. Notice where anger lives in your body. Don't argue with it. Just feel it. Now whisper inwardly, "Anger is here." On the next exhale, ask, "What is underneath?" Maybe fear, maybe hurt, maybe disappointment. Choose one honest, compassionate thought. "I'm scared," or "I'm hurt," or "I need safety." Let that truth soften your body. Now offer a boundary thought. "I can protect myself without cruelty." Repeat it once. Then end with loving kindness for yourself. "May I be free from this burning. May I rest." You're not erasing justice. You're releasing poison. You're choosing not to add harm. One wholesome thought right in the middle of anger can change the night. And enough nights changed like that can change a whole life. One thought of giving. The door you open for someone opens in you. Sometimes a single good thought changes fate because it changes another person's day. But sometimes it changes fate because it changes your heart's direction. Giving is one of the clearest examples. Not giving as performance, not giving to earn blessings, but giving as a practice of loosening the grip on fear, on scarcity, on self-centered worry. In Buddhism, generosity dana is often taught as a foundational path because it trains the mind away from clinging. And clinging is a root of suffering. Here's a story about a small gift that didn't look important until it was. A college student named Ethan was walking home late one night after a long study session. He wasn't rich. He was counting every dollar. His mind was tight with stress, grades, rent, future. He walked past a convenience store and saw a man sitting outside on the sidewalk with a thin blanket around his shoulders. The man wasn't asking loudly for money. He was just there, quiet, tired, almost invisible. Ethan's first thought was automatic. "I can't help. I'm barely making it myself." Then he took another step, and a different thought rose soft, brief. At least see him. So Ethan slowed down. He looked at the man's face. He nodded. The man nodded back. That was already something. Being seen can be a form of giving. Ethan was about to keep walking when he noticed the man's hands shaking slightly from cold. Ethan's mind searched for an excuse. It's not my responsibility. Someone else will help. If I give once, I'll feel guilty forever. Then the simplest good thought appeared. One small thing. He stepped into the store and bought a hot tea and a simple sandwich. Nothing dramatic. He chose the cheapest options. He told himself, "This won't ruin me." He walked back and offered the tea and food quietly. "Here," he said. "It's cold." The man's eyes widened. He took the tea carefully, like it was fragile, and wrapped his hands around it. He didn't cry. He didn't make a speech. He just whispered, "Thank you," as if the words were heavy with meaning. Ethan nodded again and started to walk away. But the man called out softly, "Hey!" Ethan turned. The man said, "You're the first person today who looked at me like I'm still a person." That sentence hit Ethan in the chest. He walked home differently after that. The stress in his mind didn't vanish. His bills didn't disappear. But something in his inner world loosened. His life wasn't only about him for a moment. And that moment gave him a kind of spaciousness he hadn't felt in weeks. That night, Ethan slept better. Not because giving is a magic trick, because giving reduces the mind's tightness. It turns down the volume of me, 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 the anxious loop that often keeps people awake. When you give, you step out of the prison of self-concern, even briefly, and that brief exit can be deeply healing. This is why Buddhist teachings place generosity so early on the path. It's not only moral, it's medicinal. Now, some people hear this and feel pressure. I don't have money to give. But generosity is not only about money. You can give attention, respect, patience, a kind word, forgiveness, time, listening, a smile, letting someone go ahead in line, not responding with cruelty. A single good thought, one small thing can become any of these. And here's another Buddhist truth. Giving doesn't have to be big to be real. In many teachings, what matters is the intention and the heart's opening. A small cup of tea given with sincere goodwill can be greater than a large donation given with pride. Ethan didn't solve homelessness. He offered warmth, human recognition, and one meal. And in doing so, he trained his own mind to be less clenched. Now, let's connect this directly to changing fate. Your fate is not only what happens to you, it's also what kind of person you become. If your mind becomes stingy and fearful, your world feels smaller and harsher. If your mind becomes generous, your world feels wider. People respond differently to a generous presence. You respond differently to life. Opportunities appear because your mind is open enough to see them. Again, not superstition, cause and effect. Now, there is also a caution in Buddhism. Generosity should be wise. You shouldn't give in a way that harms you or enables harm. You shouldn't give from guilt or manipulation. You should give from clarity. So the wholesome thought is not, I must save everyone. The wholesome thought is, I can do one small wholesome thing. That thought protects you from burnout and keeps giving sustainable. Now, how does this apply to bedtime and healing? Many people go to sleep with the mind stuck in scarcity. I don't have enough. I'm behind. I'm failing. I'm alone. That scarcity loop tightens the body. It makes the chest heavy and the breath shallow. Generosity is an antidote to scarcity mindset, not because it makes you rich, but because it teaches the heart. There is enough goodness in me to share. Even a tiny act of giving proves you are not empty. And that realization calms the nervous system. So here's a bedtime practice based on this section. Before sleep, recall one small, generous act you did today, even if it's tiny. Maybe you held a door, answered kindly, stayed patient, didn't lash out, gave someone your attention. If you can't find one, choose a generous intention for tomorrow. Then let that wholesome thought be your last seed of the day. This practice shifts the mind from what went wrong to what was wholesome. It does not deny problems. It balances the mind, and balance supports sleep. Now, here is a guided meditation segment you can include in your video. Lie down. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now bring to mind one small act of generosity, something you gave today. If nothing comes, choose one gift you will offer tomorrow. Patience, kindness, attention. Feel what happens in your chest when you remember giving. Notice any warmth, any softening. Now whisper inwardly, may my heart stay open. May I give wisely. May I be free from tightness. On each exhale, imagine the grip of scarcity loosening. Not because you have everything, but because you are connected to goodness. Now extend the wish outward. May those who feel unseen tonight be seen. May those who are hungry be fed. May those who are tired be comforted. Then return to your breath. End with one simple truth. One generous thought opens a door in me, and let the night be quiet. One thought of patience. The fate you change in traffic and in life. Some of the biggest turns in life don't happen in temples. They happen in traffic, in long lines, in crowded rooms, in the small daily moments where impatience tries to take the wheel. Patience doesn't sound glamorous, but in Buddhist practice, patience is a form of strength. It's the ability to stay steady without becoming harsh. And one patient thought, one breath, instead of one reaction, can prevent harm, protect your peace, and change the direction of a whole day. Here's a story about a man named Marcus and a single moment that almost became tragedy. Marcus was driving home after an exhausting day. He was running late. His phone kept buzzing with messages. His mind was tight with urgency. I have to get there. I can't waste time. Everything is behind. Then, traffic slowed to a crawl. Marcus felt anger flare. He tapped the steering wheel. He leaned forward. He checked the clock again and again, as if staring at time could move cars. A driver in the next lane suddenly cut in front of him, forcing Marcus to brake. The jolt sent heat through his body like electricity. A harsh thought rose instantly. What an idiot! People are so selfish. His hands tightened on the wheel. He was ready to honk, to yell, to roll down the window and throw words like stones. And then, right there, in the tight, ugly moment, another thought slipped in. It was small, but it was wholesome. What if they're rushing to something serious? Marcus almost rejected it. So what? They could still be careful. But the wholesome thought had already created a crack in the anger. A crack is enough for light. He looked at the car ahead of him. He noticed something he hadn't noticed before. The driver's hands were shaking. The car swerved slightly. A child's face appeared in the back seat, pale, crying. The driver glanced at the rearview mirror again and again, terrified. Marcus's chest softened. The story in his mind changed. This wasn't just a rude driver. This might be a parent in panic. Without thinking too much, Marcus backed off and gave them space. He didn't chase them. He didn't block them. He didn't punish them with his car. A few minutes later, he saw the car take an exit toward a hospital. Marcus felt cold in his stomach. He realized how close he had been to becoming someone else, someone who would rather teach a lesson than allow a human being to pass. He took a long breath. His anger drained into something quieter, humility. That night, Marcus told his partner what happened. He said, "I almost lost myself in impatience." His partner asked, "What stopped you?" Marcus answered, "One thought. What if?" That's it. One patient thought, what if there's more to this than my story? This is the kind of wisdom Buddhism points toward. The mind creates stories, and stories create suffering. When you loosen the story, you loosen suffering. Patience is often the act of loosening. Now, the lesson is not that every rude driver is rushing to a hospital. The lesson is that your assumptions are not always reality, and reacting from assumptions can cause harm. In Buddhism, this connects to compassion and non-harming. It also connects to mindfulness. Awareness gives you the pause. Without awareness, you are automatic. With awareness, you have choice. So here is the core teaching of Part A, 7. Patience is not waiting angrily. Patience is seeing clearly. Patience is choosing not to add harm. One patient thought can be, "Let me breathe first. I don't know their story. I won't poison myself. This moment is not worth my peace. May I be steady." These thoughts are not weak. They are skillful. They protect your nervous system. They protect your relationships. Sometimes they protect lives. Now bring this to daily life, beyond traffic. Impatience appears in small ways. A coworker who moves slowly. A family member who repeats themselves. A child who spills something. A partner who doesn't respond quickly. A customer who complains. A phone that loads too slowly. A body that doesn't heal fast enough. A plan that's delayed. Impatience is often a refusal to accept reality, and refusing reality creates tension. Zen teachers sometimes say, suffering is life plus resistance. When you resist what is, you tighten. When you accept what is, without giving up wisdom, you soften. Patience is acceptance in motion. But how do you practice patience when you're truly stressed and tired? You practice it in the body first. Because impatience lives in the body. Tight jaw, shallow breath, clenched hands, forward-leaning posture. If you relax the body, the mind becomes less sharp. So the first practice is exhale longer. Long exhale equals nervous system downshift. Downshift equals more choice. More choice equals less harm. Then you add the wholesome thought. This is not worth my peace. That thought is a boundary. It tells the mind, we're not feeding this fire. Now, how does patience connect to sleep? Many people carry impatience into bed. They're impatient with their mind. Why can't I stop thinking? They're impatient with their body. Why can't I fall asleep? That impatience becomes another layer of stress. So Buddhism suggests patience with yourself too. If you can't sleep quickly, don't punish yourself. Don't fight. Return to breath. That is patience. A single patient thought at bedtime can change your whole night. It's okay to rest, even if I'm awake. That thought removes pressure. Pressure is the enemy of sleep. Now, here is a guided meditation segment based on patience that you can include in your video. Lie down. Feel the bed supporting you. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind a moment today when you felt impatient. Notice what it felt like in the body. Now whisper inwardly, I don't know the whole story. I choose steadiness. On each exhale, soften your jaw. Soften your shoulders. Let the urgency drain. If your mind says, hurry, hurry, answer gently. Not now. This can wait. Return to breath. Now extend patience outward. May others be safe on their path. May I be safe on mine. End with one final seed. One patient thought protects my peace. Let that be the last thing you hold. Because patience is not only about waiting, it's about who you become while you wait. And who you become is your real destiny. One thought at the turning point. Choosing the next step, not the whole life. We're closing part A now. And Zen would want to end this half of the body with something deeply practical. What do you do when you're standing at a turning point, when life feels heavy, uncertain, or out of control, and you don't know what to do next? Many people think they need to solve their whole life in one night. They lie in bed and try to plan the perfect future, fix the entire past, and answer every fear at once. That pressure creates panic. Panic creates insomnia. Insomnia creates more panic. It becomes a loop. Buddhism offers a gentler truth. You don't need to carry the whole life. You only need to choose the next step with one wholesome thought. Mutnim Thayan, Doi Kavan, becomes very real here. Because at turning points, the mind is fertile. What you think repeatedly becomes what you do. What you do becomes your direction. So let me tell you a story about a turning point that looked ordinary from the outside. A man named Oliver had been unemployed for months. He wasn't lazy. He was tired. Rejection emails had piled up. Savings were shrinking. His confidence felt like it had holes in it. Each time he opened his laptop to apply for jobs, his chest tightened. His mind whispered, "What's the point? You'll get rejected again." At night, Oliver couldn't sleep. He didn't want to disappoint his family. He didn't want to admit how afraid he was. So he carried the fear silently. He replayed worst-case scenarios. Losing his apartment, being judged, failing at life. One night, after hours of tossing and turning, Oliver got up and stood by the window. The street was quiet. A single streetlight spilled soft gold onto the pavement. He felt empty. He felt like life had narrowed to shame. Then he remembered something his grandmother used to say, not perfectly Buddhist, but very aligned with it. When you can't change the world, change your mind. Oliver didn't know how to change his mind. He had tried positive thinking, and it felt fake. He had tried forcing motivation, and it burned out quickly. So he chose something smaller. He sat on the edge of the bed and asked himself one honest question. What is one wholesome thought I can hold right now? Not 10. Not a speech. 1. The thought that came was surprisingly simple. I can take one small step. That was it. Not, I'll fix my life. Not, I'll win tomorrow. Just one small step. Oliver breathed out slowly. His shoulders dropped. The pressure in his chest loosened slightly. The mind likes extremes. Total success or total failure. A small step breaks the extreme thinking. It creates space. The next morning, Oliver woke up and did exactly one small step. He updated one section of his resume. Not the whole thing. One section. Then he stopped. He didn't punish himself for not doing more. He honored the step. That night, when his mind tried to spiral again, he returned to the same wholesome thought. One small step. The next day, he sent one application. Just one, carefully done. Then he rested. A week later, he had sent several applications, not from frantic pressure, but from steady movement. 2 weeks later, he got a response. Not a dream job, an interview for something decent. But the deeper victory was not the interview. It was the shift in his identity. He had stopped being a person frozen by fear. This is the Buddhist miracle that doesn't look like fireworks. The miracle of momentum. In Buddhist language, this is also about skillful intention. When intention is wholesome, your energy becomes cleaner. When energy is cleaner, your actions are more consistent. When actions are consistent, life opens. Now, I want to be very clear for your audience. This story does not promise that a job appears just because you think kindly. That would be dishonest. What it shows is something more reliable. A wholesome thought changes the way you meet reality, and that changes outcomes over time. This is cause and effect. Fear says, do nothing, hide. Wholesome intention says, take one step. Fear collapses the future into doom. Wholesome intention opens a path. This is Doi Van. Now, turning points are not always about jobs. They can be deciding whether to leave a relationship, choosing to seek help for anxiety or depression, starting a healthier routine, repairing a family bond, forgiving yourself, beginning meditation, taking responsibility for a mistake, facing grief, moving to a new season of life. In all of these, the mind wants to solve everything at once. Buddhism says, choose the next wholesome step. And to choose that step, you start with one wholesome thought. Here are examples of turning point wholesome thoughts. I will ask for help. I will be honest. I will protect myself. I will forgive myself. I will begin again. I will do one small thing. Any one of these can change your direction. Now, how does this tie into healing and sleep? Because many people listen to bedtime Buddhist videos when they feel stuck. They want peace, but they also want hope. The mind is tired of spiraling. The heart is tired of fear. So the practice tonight is not to plan your whole life. It is to plant one wholesome thought that gives the nervous system permission to rest. Here's a powerful one. Tonight, I do not have to solve my life. That thought is compassion. It cuts the loop. Then you add, tomorrow, I will take one wholesome step. That thought is wisdom. It gives direction without pressure. Now, here is a guided meditation segment to close Part A and prepare for Part B. Lie down. Feel the bed holding you. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind the biggest area of uncertainty in your life right now. Don't analyze it, just name it. Work, health, family, loneliness, future. Now ask softly, what is one wholesome thought I can plant here? Choose one. I can take one small step. I can ask for help. I can begin again. Now repeat it on each exhale. Let your body soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your shoulders drop. Now add this. Tonight, I rest. Tomorrow, one step. Return to breath. Inhale, here. Exhale now. This is how you change fate without forcing life. You plant one good thought, you choose one good step, and you let the path unfold. The hidden switch. One good thought changes your luck by changing your attention. Now we enter Part B, where the teaching becomes even more personal. How one wholesome thought doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you notice. And what you notice shapes your life more than you realize. Many people call this luck. They say, some people are lucky. I'm not. But Buddhism would ask a gentler question. What if luck is sometimes the result of mind state? What if, when the mind is bitter or afraid, it becomes narrow, and when the mind is wholesome, it becomes wide? Not magic, cause and effect. A fearful mind scans for threats. A resentful mind scans for insults. A hopeless mind scans for proof that nothing will work. But a wholesome mind, one rooted in kindness, clarity, and non-harming, scans for possibilities. It notices help. It notices timing. It notices small doors that were always there, but invisible to a clenched mind. So part B, 1 is about the hidden switch, attention. Here's a story about a door that appeared only after a single good thought. A woman named Naomi had been looking for a new apartment. She had been rejected again and again. Prices were high. Competition was intense. Every time she found something decent, it was gone within hours. After weeks of this, her mind became sharp and tired. She started waking up already frustrated. One day, Naomi walked into a building to see a listing. The agent was late. The lobby was crowded with other applicants. Naomi's chest tightened. The familiar bitter thought rose. Of course I won't get it. Someone else will take it. This is pointless. That thought had become her default, not because she loved negativity, but because she had been disappointed too many times. The mind tries to protect itself by expecting the worst. Naomi sat in the lobby and scrolled her phone, feeding the same story. Her shoulders were tense. Her face looked closed. Her breath was shallow. Then she noticed an elderly man struggling with a heavy box near the mail area. No one was helping. People were busy with their own stress. Naomi felt the impulse to ignore him. She was in survival mode. But a small, wholesome thought surfaced, almost like it came from a deeper place. Help him. Just help. She stood up, walked over, and said, "Hi, do you need a hand?" The man looked surprised and relieved. "Yes, please," he said. Naomi lifted one side of the box and carried it to his apartment door. It wasn't a dramatic act of charity. It was 2 minutes of effort. But in those 2 minutes, something changed. Her body softened. Her breath slowed. Her face warmed. The bitterness loosened. She returned to being human. The man thanked her and said, "You're here for the viewing?" Naomi nodded, slightly embarrassed. "Yes, it's been hard." The man smiled. "I'm on the building board," he said. "Not the agent, but I know the owners." "Which unit are you looking at?" Naomi told him. He nodded thoughtfully. "That one's nice. The owner cares more about a good tenant than a bidding war. When the agent arrives, tell them Mr. Harris helped you earlier. I'll mention it." Naomi blinked. She couldn't believe it. She almost asked, "Are you serious?" But she simply said, "Thank you." Later, the agent arrived. Naomi introduced herself, calm but sincere. She didn't perform. She didn't beg. She just showed up, more open than she had been in weeks. When she mentioned the man she helped, the agent's expression softened. "Oh, Mr. Harris," the agent said, "he's wonderful. Naomi didn't get an instant guarantee, but she got a fair chance. A week later, she got the apartment." Now, again, the Buddhist lesson is not help someone and you'll get what you want. That would be another form of clinging. The real lesson is this. When Naomi's mind shifted from bitterness to kindness, her attention widened. She noticed a human need. She acted. Her nervous system softened. Her face opened. Her energy changed. And in that open state, a connection appeared. Was it luck? In everyday language, yes. It felt like luck. But in Buddhist language, it's cause and effect, wholesome mind state, wholesome action, new conditions, new outcomes. The switch was one good thought. Help him. And that thought changed more than the moment. It changed Naomi's posture in life, from clenched and braced to open and present. This matters for your audience because many people are stuck in a narrow mind state without realizing it. They're exhausted, they're stressed, they're disappointed. They're not bad, but their mind is tight, and tight minds miss doors. So the practice is not to force optimism. The practice is to plant one wholesome thought that opens the mind. Here are examples of attention-opening, wholesome thoughts. Let me be kind right now. Let me pause. Let me see what's needed. Maybe there is a small door. I can do one good thing. These thoughts don't promise outcomes. They change your inner conditions, and inner conditions shape your outer life more than we think. Now, let's bring this into bedtime and healing. At night, many people scan their mind for problems. They review everything that went wrong. They replay mistakes. They worry about tomorrow. Their attention becomes a flashlight aimed at fear. Of course, they can't sleep. The nervous system stays alert. So the wholesome thought at bedtime can be an attention switch too. Let me notice what is okay. Not perfect, just okay. Maybe your breath is okay. Maybe your bed is okay. Maybe you are safe enough in this moment. Maybe you did one kind thing today. Maybe you can do one kind thing tomorrow. When attention moves from threat to safety, sleep becomes possible. So here is a guided practice to close this section, a simple attention switch meditation. Lie down. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now notice one thing that is okay right now. The blanket, the pillow, the quiet, the fact that you are here, listening. Let that be your first wholesome thought. Right now, something is okay. Now notice one small kindness you offered today, or one kindness you can offer tomorrow. Plant the thought. I choose one good thought. On the exhale, imagine your attention widening like a room with windows opening. The air moves. The mind softens. End with a gentle vow. Tonight, I stop scanning for threats. Tonight, I return to what is safe. That is not denial. That is wisdom. And that wisdom, repeated, changes your fate because it changes your attention, and your attention shapes your life. The second arrow, one good thought, stops you from suffering twice. In Buddhism, pain is part of life. Disappointment happens. People misunderstand you. Plans fall apart. Bodies get tired. Hearts break. But the Buddha pointed to something that changes everything. We often suffer twice. The first suffering is the event itself, the first arrow. The second suffering is what we add with our mind, the second arrow. This is where one wholesome thought can truly change your fate, because it can stop the second arrow from landing. It can keep a hard day from becoming a hard week. It can keep a mistake from becoming a lifelong label. It can keep tonight from turning into an anxious, sleepless spiral. Here's a story about the second arrow. Simple, human, and very real. A woman named Sophia was driving to an important appointment she had waited months for. She left early. She planned carefully. She even rehearsed what she would say. She wanted this to go right. Halfway there, her car made a strange sound and stalled at a red light. The steering wheel stiffened. The dashboard flashed warnings. Cars behind her began to honk. People leaned on horns like anger was a language. Sophia's first arrow landed immediately. Fear. Her second arrow was already loading. Shame. She felt her face burn. She imagined everyone judging her. She imagined missing her appointment. She imagined the whole day ruined. In her mind, she heard the voice that many people carry. Of course this would happen to you. You can't do anything right. You always end up embarrassed. That voice wasn't the car. That voice was the second arrow. Sophia stepped out of the car and waved for people to go around. A few drivers yelled. One person made a rude gesture. The humiliation felt thick. She wanted to disappear. Then, in the middle of that heat, she remembered something she had once heard in a Buddhist talk. The first arrow is unavoidable. The second arrow is optional. She didn't remember it perfectly. She didn't quote it like a scholar. But the message arrived as a wholesome thought, small, clear. Don't add cruelty. That thought didn't fix the car. It didn't stop the horns. But it changed what happened inside her. She took one breath. She softened her shoulders a little. She said to herself, "This is hard, but I don't have to make it mean I'm worthless." That sentence was a second arrow blocker. Then another wholesome thought followed. I can take the next step. She called roadside assistance. She texted the appointment office to reschedule. She asked a passerby for help pushing the car to a safer spot. A woman walking her dog offered to stand with her while she waited. Sophia still felt shaken. She still lost the appointment. The first arrow was real, but something else was also real. She didn't drown in the second arrow. She didn't spiral into self-hate. She didn't spend the night replaying the humiliation like a punishment film. Later, when she got home, she felt tired but strangely proud. Not pride like ego, but pride like dignity. She had met difficulty without adding poison. That night, she slept. This is what Buddhism means by changing the mind that suffers, not by denying pain, but by refusing to add extra suffering. Now, the second arrow shows up in many forms. I failed, so I'm a failure. They criticized me, so I'm not enough. I feel anxious, so something is wrong with me. I made a mistake, so I don't deserve peace. I'm behind, so I'll never catch up. Those are not facts. Those are second arrows. And here's why they're so damaging. The second arrow makes suffering sticky. The first arrow might be a moment. The second arrow can become a story you live in for years. So the practice is to catch the second arrow early and stop it with one wholesome thought. What wholesome thought? Often, it is compassion with clarity. This hurts, but I can handle it. This is a hard moment, not a hard life. I'm human. I learn. I don't have to punish myself. Next step. Notice these phrases don't promise miracles. They don't say, everything is fine. They say, I won't add harm. That is Buddhist wisdom. Now here is something important for your audience. Stopping the second arrow does not mean you don't take responsibility. Sophia still took action. She still called for help. She still rescheduled. She still dealt with reality. She simply didn't wrap reality in self-hatred. This is the balance. Responsibility without cruelty. Now let's connect this to sleep meditation. At night, people often relive the first arrow something said to them, a mistake, a fear. But then they add the second arrow, shame, blame, catastrophic stories. That's why they can't sleep. So the bedtime practice is, if a painful memory appears, meet it with one wholesome thought. This is the first arrow. I won't add the second. Then return to breath. It sounds simple, but it's powerful because it changes the nervous system. When you stop attacking yourself, the body begins to feel safer. Safety is the gateway to sleep. Now, here is a guided practice you can include in your video, designed to disarm the second arrow. Lie down. Let your body be heavy. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind one difficult moment from today. Just one. Notice the feeling it creates. Now ask, what is the second arrow I'm adding? Is it, I'm not enough? Is it, I always mess up? Is it, I'll never be okay? Name it softly. Second arrow. Now plant one wholesome thought. I won't add harm. Or, this is a hard moment, not a hard life. Or, I'm human, and I can learn. Repeat it once, slowly. On the exhale, imagine the second arrow dissolving like mist. You don't have to erase the first arrow. You only stop stabbing yourself again. Then return to breath. Inhale. Here. Exhale. Now, end with this vow. Tonight I choose kindness in my own mind. Because that is how fate changes, not only by what happens to you, but by what you stop adding to it. The chain reaction. One good thought breaks a whole pattern. Some suffering doesn't come from one big event. It comes from a pattern, something that repeats. Same trigger, same reaction, same regret. And the hardest part is how normal it starts to feel. After a while, you stop noticing it as a pattern. You start calling it just who I am. Buddhism offers a more hopeful view. A pattern is not a destiny. A pattern is a habit. And habits can change, especially when you catch the moment early. That's where one wholesome thought can truly change your fate, because it can break the chain reaction. Here's a story about a pattern that broke with one sentence. A man named Jason had a habit of shutting down. When conflict appeared, his body reacted like danger. His chest tightened, his mind went blank, and he withdrew. He wouldn't yell. He wouldn't explode. He would go quiet, cold quiet. His partner, Elena, experienced that silence as abandonment, and she would push harder. The more she pushed, the more he shut down. The more he shut down, the more she felt alone. They loved each other, but their nervous systems were stuck in a loop. One night, it happened again. Elena asked a simple question. "Are we okay?" Jason heard it as criticism. His shoulders tightened. His mind began building the old story. Nothing I say will be right. I'll just make it worse. So he did what he always did. He went quiet. Elena's face changed. She felt the wall. "You're doing it again," she said, frustration rising. "You disappear." Jason looked away. His silence got heavier. Inside, he wasn't calm. He was scared, but he didn't have words for it. His body was protecting him the way it had learned long ago. Elena stood up, hurt. "If you won't talk, what am I supposed to do?" Jason felt panic. He felt shame. And then another pattern began to load. The moment where Elena would leave the room, the night would end in distance, and the next day would start with resentment. Jason didn't want that, but he also didn't know how to stop the pattern. Then something happened that surprised even him. He remembered a line from a Buddhist talk he'd heard months earlier. "When you're caught, name it gently." It wasn't a perfect memory, but it landed as a wholesome thought. Tell the truth. Don't hide. He swallowed. His throat felt tight. His heart was pounding. And he said one sentence, quiet, simple, honest. "I'm shutting down because I'm scared." Elena froze. The room changed temperature. Jason didn't explain everything. He didn't make excuses. He simply named what was real underneath his behavior. And naming it turned the pattern into something visible. It turned a wall into a window. Elena sat back down. Her voice softened. "Scared of what?" she asked. Jason exhaled. "Scared. I'll say the wrong thing. Scared you'll be disappointed. Scared I'll fail you." Elena's eyes filled with tears, not because she wanted him to suffer, but because she finally saw him. The silence had felt like rejection, but now she saw it was fear. She reached for his hand. "I don't need perfect," she said. "I need you." That night, the pattern broke. Not forever, not magically, but enough to change direction, enough to create a new possibility, conflict without collapse. This is a deeply Buddhist insight. When you bring awareness to a pattern, you loosen its grip. What was unconscious becomes conscious. What was automatic becomes chosen. The wholesome thought was simple: tell the truth. And the truth was not a dramatic confession. It was one honest sentence. Now, again, the lesson is not that one sentence will fix every relationship. The lesson is that one wholesome thought can interrupt the loop. It can insert a new option into a predictable chain. This applies to many patterns: overthinking insomnia, exhaustion, more overthinking, stress, snapping at people, guilt, more stress, loneliness, scrolling, numbness, more loneliness, shame, hiding isolation, more shame, anger, harsh words, regret, more anger, procrastination, panic, avoidance, more procrastination. Patterns are built from repeated moments. If you change one moment, you change the pattern's future. So what does Buddhism teach you to do in the moment? First, notice the early signals. Patterns have a beginning. You can often feel it in the body before it becomes behavior. Tight throat, clenched jaw, heat in the face, racing heart, shutting down, spinning mind, urge to run, lash out, or freeze. When you notice the signal, you plant one wholesome thought to interrupt. Pause. Name it. Breathe. Tell the truth. One small step. Don't add harm. The exact phrase matters less than the function. It breaks the automatic chain. Now, here is a Buddhist way to frame this that your audience will understand. You don't have to win against your mind. You have to become aware of the pattern and choose one clean move. Zen often says, small shifts, repeated, become a new life. So let's make this practical for bedtime, because bedtime is where patterns often show up most strongly. If your pattern is overthinking, you can name it. Overthinking is here. Then choose the wholesome thought. I don't have to solve this tonight. If your pattern is self-attack, you can name it. Self-judgment is here. Then choose, I can learn without cruelty. If your pattern is fear, you can name it. Fear is here. Then choose, right now, I am safe enough to breathe. Naming is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's turning on the light. When the light is on, the pattern loses some power. Now, here is a guided practice you can include in your video to help listeners break a pattern before sleep. Lie down. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now bring to mind one pattern you want to stop feeding. Not your whole life, just one pattern. Name it softly. This is a pattern. This is a pattern. Now notice the body sensation that comes with it. Where do you feel it? Chest? Throat? Belly? Forehead? Now plant one wholesome thought. I can change one moment. Repeat it slowly. On the next exhale, choose one clean action for tonight. Return to breath. Soften the jaw. Put the phone down. Stop replaying the story. Offer yourself kindness. Let the night be simple. You don't have to fix the pattern forever tonight. You only stop feeding it right now. End with this vow. Tonight I break the chain with one good thought. That is the Buddhist path in daily life. Simple, human, repeatable. Because fate is not only what happens to you, fate is also what you keep repeating. And what you keep repeating can change. The mirror moment. One good thought changes the story you tell about yourself. There are nights when the real problem isn't what happened today. The real problem is the story your mind tells about what happened. The story sounds like a verdict. I'm not enough. I always mess up. People don't stay. Nothing ever works for me. In Buddhism, these verdict stories are not the same as truth. They are mental formations, habitual narratives, built from past pain, fear, and repetition. They feel real because the body reacts to them. The chest tightens, the stomach drops, the breath shortens, and when the body believes the story, sleep becomes difficult. So part B, 4, is about a powerful turning point. The mirror moment. The moment you look at yourself, your life, your mistakes, your situation, and a harsh identity story rises. One wholesome thought at that moment can change your fate because it changes your identity from fixed to learning. Here's a story about a mirror and one sentence. A woman named Tessa had recently gone through a breakup. Not the dramatic kind with screaming, but the slow kind, the kind where the relationship fades and you're left staring at the quiet space where love used to live. Tessa wasn't just grieving the person, she was grieving the future she had pictured. During the day, she could function. She worked. She smiled. She answered texts. But at night, the mind turned into a courtroom. Her heart replayed every conversation. Her brain searched for the moment where she ruined it. And then the verdict arrived. This happened because I'm unlovable. That sentence is a knife. Many people have a version of it. It may not sound exactly like that, but the meaning is the same. Something is wrong with me. One night, Tessa went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. Her eyes were tired. Her face looked older than she remembered. She stared at herself, and another thought followed quickly. Look at you. Of course they left. The second arrow was firing hard. Tessa felt a familiar urge to spiral, to scroll, to numb out, to punish herself with memories. But then, in a surprising way, she remembered something she'd heard in a Buddhist book about right view. Suffering grows when we cling to fixed identities. The mind wants to make a permanent label out of a temporary pain. It wants to say, "This is who I am," instead of, "This is what I'm feeling." That memory turned into one wholesome thought, simple, clear. This is pain, not identity. Tessa whispered it to herself, almost like she was talking to a child. This is pain, not identity. She didn't suddenly feel happy, but the knife dulled. The story loosened. Her breath deepened slightly. Her shoulders dropped. She was still sad, but she wasn't condemned. Then she added another wholesome thought, one that sounded more like compassion. I'm hurting. I deserve kindness. Again, not a miracle, a direction change. This is what Buddhism does at the deepest level. It separates experience from identity. It teaches you. Feelings arise and pass. Thoughts arise and pass. Even heartbreak arises and passes. But if you turn every feeling into an identity, you become trapped. Zen teachers often say, don't be fooled by the mind's labels. Labels are useful for communication, but they are dangerous when they become prisons. So Tessa practiced that night in the simplest way possible. Each time the mind said, I'm unlovable, she answered, that's a story. Each time the mind said, I'll always be alone, she answered, that's the future speaking from pain. Each time the mind said, I ruined everything, she answered, I'm learning. Those answers were her wholesome thoughts, and each one changed the temperature of her body. Over the next weeks, Tessa didn't heal instantly. Healing is a process, but she stopped feeding the identity story. She started taking care of herself, not as a broken person, but as a human in grief. And that shift changed her fate more than she understood. Because when she stopped seeing herself as unlovable, she started treating herself as worthy of good care. She rested more. She reached out to friends. She went to therapy. She returned to hobbies. She rebuilt her life, not from desperation, but from dignity. Now, again, the Buddhist lesson is not, say affirmations and your life will be perfect. The lesson is, don't confuse pain with identity. Don't let the mind create a permanent label out of a temporary wound. So what is the wholesome thought that changes fate here? Often it's one of these. This is pain, not identity. This is a feeling, not a verdict. I'm learning. I'm human. I deserve kindness. These phrases are not fake positivity. They are right view. They are wisdom. Now, let's bring this into a bedtime practice. Because bedtime is when identity stories get loud. The world is quiet, so the mind fills the space. If you want to help your audience sleep, teach them to recognize the story and switch to a wholesome thought. Here's a simple method. Story name replace return. Story. Notice the harsh sentence. Name. Story. Replace one wholesome thought. Return to breath. Example. Story. I'm a failure. Name. Story. Replace. I'm learning. Return. Inhale. Exhale. Story. No one cares. Name. Story. Replace. I can care for myself tonight. Return. Story. I'm behind. Name. Story. Replace. I can take one step. Return. The goal is not to force the story away. The goal is to stop believing it as absolute truth. In Buddhist practice, this is also connected to non-attachment. You don't cling to thoughts as me or mine. You observe them. You let them pass. You choose what you feed. Now, here is a guided meditation segment you can include in your video. Very gentle, very sleep-friendly. Lie down. Let your body be heavy. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now notice if any harsh story is playing in the mind. A label. A verdict. A sentence that hurts. Don't fight it. Just name it softly. Story. Now place a hand on your chest and plant one wholesome thought. This is pain, not identity. Repeat it slowly. Then add loving kindness. May I be gentle with myself. May I be at ease. On each exhale, imagine the story loosening like a knot untying. Return to breath. Inhale. Here. Exhale. Now. End with a final seed. Tonight, I don't condemn myself. That one thought changes fate because it changes how you carry your life. And how you carry your life determines the road ahead. The 10-second doorway. One good thought returns you to the present. There is a moment often only 10 seconds long when suffering either grows or softens. It's the moment the mind leaves the present and runs to the past or the future. The mind replays what happened. It rehearses what might happen. It tries to control what cannot be controlled. And the body pays the price. The Buddha pointed again and again to this truth. Peace is found not in winning the mind's arguments, but in returning to direct experience here, now. Zen expresses it simply, just this. So in Part B, SP 5, we practice a doorway that takes only 10 seconds. One wholesome thought that brings you back to the present before the spiral takes you away. Here's a story about a 10-second doorway that saved a man from panic. A man named Andre used to get sudden waves of anxiety at night. Not every night, but enough to fear bedtime. He would lie down, close his eyes, and then out of nowhere his mind would start running. What if I can't sleep? What if tomorrow goes badly? What if something is wrong with me? What if my life falls apart? When the mind asks what if in fear, it usually doesn't stop at one question. It multiplies. And each question tightens the body. Andre's heart would race. His hands would sweat. His chest would feel like it couldn't fully expand. The fear felt like truth, even though nothing was happening in the room. One night, after another wave, Andre sat up and opened a meditation app. He didn't want deep philosophy. He wanted a way out. The voice on the app said something extremely simple. Return to one breath. Andre almost laughed. One breath? That's it? but he was desperate enough to try. He lay back down and chose one wholesome thought, one sentence that would become his doorway. Right now, I am here. That was it. Not I will be okay forever. Not I will never feel anxious again. Just here. He inhaled. He exhaled. Then he added the second part of the doorway. Right now, I am safe enough. He didn't mean perfectly safe. He meant safe enough in this moment to breathe. The bed was holding him. The room was quiet. He wasn't in immediate danger. The fear was inside, not outside. As Andre repeated those two phrases, he noticed something. His mind kept trying to pull him into the future, but the phrases pulled him back. The anxiety didn't vanish instantly, but it stopped multiplying. It stopped feeding itself with stories. He realized something important. Anxiety grows in time travel. It grows when the mind leaves now. The next night, the anxiety came again. But Andre recognized the early signal: tight chest, fast heart, racing thoughts. And before the spiral could build a full storm, he used the 10-second doorway. Here, in this breath, safe enough. He did it again and again, like returning a wandering child to the same chair. Over time, his nervous system learned a new response. Bedtime stopped feeling like a battlefield. The anxiety didn't disappear from his life forever, but it no longer owned his nights. This is exactly what Buddhist practice trains, not the destruction of thoughts, but the ability to return. Now, let's connect this to Motniam Thean, Doi Kavan. Because if you can return to the present, you change the fate of your nervous system. You change the direction of your night. Instead of spiraling into panic, you enter a softer track. Breath, body, calm. And repeated nights like that change your life. A single wholesome thought here is like a steering wheel correction. You don't need to turn the car 90 degrees. You just need to stop drifting off the road. In Buddhist terms, this is mindfulness. Remembering the present, remembering the body, remembering what is real. And it's also compassion, because returning is a kind act. You stop feeding fear. You stop adding harm. You meet yourself with patience. Now, people often resist this practice because it seems too simple. The mind wants complexity. It wants to solve everything. But sleep is not solved by thinking. Sleep is allowed by safety. And safety often comes from simplicity. So here are a few 10-second doorway phrases your audience can use. Each is a wholesome thought. Just this breath. Here. Now. Safe enough. Let the body rest. I don't need to solve tonight. Return. Pick one. Repeat it like a lullaby. You're not forcing yourself to calm down. You're giving your mind one gentle place to land. Now, this doorway also helps during the day. When you're angry, when you're overwhelmed, when you're about to react, the doorway is always available because the present is always here. Now, let's offer a short Buddhist reflection that fits. Suffering increases when we cling to what is not here, past and future. Peace begins when we meet what is here with awareness. So the practice tonight is not to fix the past or control the future. It's to come back. Now, here is a guided meditation segment you can read slowly for Part B, 5. Lie down. Feel the bed supporting you. Let your body be heavy. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now notice if the mind is traveling past or future. If it is, say softly, "Not now." Now plant the wholesome thought. Here. Inhale. Here. Exhale. Now. Add the second thought. Safe enough. Inhale. Safe enough. Exhale. Soften. If anxiety returns, don't argue. Return again. Return is the practice. Return is the kindness. Now finish with one line. Tonight I live in this breath, and let silence follow. Because sometimes the most healing Buddhist teaching is not a concept. It's a return. The forgiveness seed. One good thought releases a year of weight. Some people don't lose sleep because of what happened today. They lose sleep because of what happened years ago, and the mind still carries it like a heavy bag. Old words, old betrayals, old shame, old grief. The body remembers. The heart tightens. And the mind keeps replaying the same scene, as if replaying could finally produce a different ending. Buddhism doesn't ask you to pretend you weren't hurt. It asks you to stop turning your pain into poison. Forgiveness, in Buddhist practice, is not approval. It is release. It is choosing to put down what is burning your hand. And sometimes that release begins with one very small wholesome thought. I'm willing to soften. Not, I'm ready to forgive everything perfectly. Just willing to soften. Here's a story about a forgiveness seed that changed a whole year. A woman named Claire had not spoken to her sister in 3 years. The fight wasn't about something trivial. It was about family betrayal, money, trust. Harsh words said in the worst moment. Their relationship broke, and then it hardened. At first, the distance felt like protection. Claire told herself, I don't need her. She built a life without her sister's voice. But the mind is honest in the dark. At night, when the house was quiet, Claire's heart would replay old memories, childhood laughter, shared secrets, the feeling of being understood. Then the anger would return. The betrayal, the humiliation, the words that still stung. Claire wasn't only angry at her sister. She was angry at herself for trusting, for not seeing it coming, for letting the relationship break. The pain wasn't clean. It was tangled. One December evening, Claire was wrapping gifts alone. She heard a holiday song that used to play at her parents' house. The memory hit her like a wave. She suddenly missed her sister so sharply it felt physical. She sat down on the floor and cried quietly, like an adult who doesn't want anyone to hear. In that moment, the mind offered its usual defenses. She doesn't deserve your forgiveness. If you soften, you'll be hurt again. You're safer alone. Those thoughts were understandable. They were protective. But they also kept the wound alive. Then a different thought appeared, gentle, honest, and surprisingly strong. I'm tired of carrying this. That thought was not sentimental. It was not naive. It was exhaustion speaking. Claire realized her anger had become a daily weight. Even if she won the argument in her mind, she lost peace. She lost sleep. She lost joy. She lost openness. The anger wasn't punishing her sister as much as it was punishing her. So she planted a very small forgiveness seed, the smallest one she could tolerate. I don't know what forgiveness looks like yet, but I'm willing to soften. That was the wholesome thought. She didn't call her sister that night. She didn't write a dramatic letter. She simply sat with the thought and breathed. She put a hand on her chest and repeated, I'm willing to soften. Her body resisted. The mind brought up arguments, but she stayed with it quietly. Something in her chest unclenched just a little, not a full release, a beginning. The next week, she noticed something surprising. The replay still happened, but it was less sharp. The anger still rose, but it didn't feel as righteous. When she saw her sister's name in a family group message, she didn't feel only fire. She felt sadness, too. Sadness is softer than anger. Sadness allows healing. Anger often blocks it. Claire began to practice a Buddhist reflection that many teachers offer. Everyone acts from their own confusion and suffering. This is not an excuse. It's context. Context is what helps the heart soften. She asked herself, what pain was my sister acting from? She didn't like the question, but she considered it. Then she asked another. What pain am I still acting from? Those questions didn't erase betrayal, but they changed the inner climate from war to inquiry. Finally, after weeks of sitting with the willingness to soften, Claire sent a short message. I've been carrying a lot. I'm not ready to pretend everything is fine, but I miss you, and I'm willing to talk when it feels safe. That message was not weakness. It was a boundary plus a bridge. Her sister replied hours later, I miss you too. I've been ashamed. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try. They didn't reunite in one perfect moment. Healing took time, but the war ended. And when the war ended, Claire slept better than she had in years. This is forgiveness as medicine. Now, to be clear for your audience, forgiveness is not required in all situations. If someone is unsafe, boundaries matter. You can forgive internally and still keep distance. You can soften without returning. Buddhism values non-harming, including protecting yourself from harm. So, what exactly is the wholesome thought here? It's not, they were right. It's not, it didn't matter. It's not, I should be over it. It's this, I'm willing to soften. Or, I'm tired of carrying this. Or, I release this for tonight. These are realistic. They are gentle. They are doable. Now, how does this connect to sleep? Unforgiven resentment keeps the nervous system vigilant. It's like your body stays ready for attack, even if the attack was years ago. Forgiveness, and especially the willingness to forgive, signals safety. It tells the body, we can lower the guard. So tonight, the practice is not to force forgiveness. The practice is to plant one seed of release so your body can rest. Here is a guided meditation segment you can include for Part B. 6. Lie down. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Bring to mind one person or situation you are still carrying. Just one. Notice what it does to your body. Tight jaw, tight chest, heat. Now plant one wholesome thought. I'm tired of carrying this. Let that land. Now add, I'm willing to soften. On each exhale, imagine lowering a heavy bag from your shoulders onto the floor beside the bed. You are not saying it was okay. You are not erasing your boundaries. You are simply releasing the weight for tonight. If you want, offer a simple phrase of goodwill, not as approval, but as freedom. May we both be free from this suffering. Then return to breath. End with, tonight, I choose release. Because even a small release changes your fate. It changes your nervous system, your sleep, your heart's direction. And over time, that becomes a new life. The compassion pivot. One good thought ends the war with yourself. There is a kind of suffering that looks quiet from the outside, but feels brutal on the inside. The war with yourself. You lie in bed and replay the day, not to learn, but to punish. You think about what you said, what you didn't say, what you should have done, what you should have been, and even when life is okay, your mind finds a way to tighten around guilt or fear. Buddhism names this clearly. Suffering grows when the mind clings to judgment and identity. The Buddha didn't teach self-hate as a path to purity. He taught liberation from suffering. And liberation begins when you stop adding harm, especially to yourself. So Part B, S7, is about a pivot, a compassion pivot, a single wholesome thought that ends the inner war, at least for tonight. Here's a story that many people will recognize. A nurse named Priya worked long shifts. She was competent and caring, but she was also human. One night during a busy shift, she missed a small detail in a patient chart. Another nurse caught it quickly, and no one was harmed. The situation was corrected within minutes. Objectively, it was not a disaster. But Priya's mind treated it like a moral failure. When she got home, she couldn't let it go. She replayed the moment again and again. She imagined the worst-case scenario, what could have happened. She imagined being judged by coworkers. She imagined herself as careless. Her chest felt heavy. Her stomach turned. Her body was exhausted, but her mind refused to rest. And then the inner voice arrived. Sharp and absolute. How could you? You should know better. Priya knew this voice well. It had followed her since childhood, disguised as high standards. But it didn't feel like standards tonight. It felt like punishment. She sat on the edge of her bed, and stared at the floor, fighting tears. She didn't feel like meditating. She felt like she deserved to suffer. Then she remembered something she'd once read in a Buddhist teaching about compassion. Compassion is not a reward for good behavior. Compassion is medicine for suffering. That idea landed as one wholesome thought. Quiet. Steady. I am suffering. This is when compassion matters. It was such a simple shift that it almost felt too easy, but it changed everything. Instead of asking, "How could you?" she asked a different question. What would I say to a friend in my situation? If her friend told her the same story caught quickly, no harm, corrected Priya would not say, "You deserve to suffer." She would say, "You're tired. You care. Learn from it. And rest." So Priya offered herself the same medicine. I care. I'm tired. I can learn. I can rest. That sentence was her compassion pivot. Her mind argued, if you're gentle, you'll get lazy. But she could feel the truth. Gentleness wasn't making her careless. It was making her stable. Stable minds learn better than punished minds. Priya placed a hand on her chest and took one long exhale. Then she repeated the wholesome thought again, slowly. I can learn without cruelty. That thought didn't erase accountability. It actually supported accountability. Because once she stopped drowning in shame, she could see clearly what to adjust, double-checking charts at certain moments, taking micro breaks, asking for support on overloaded shifts. Compassion didn't remove responsibility. It removed poison. That night, Priya slept, not perfectly, but enough. And the next day, she was sharper, not because she punished herself, but because she rested. This is a deeply Buddhist insight. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is the foundation of wise effort. Now, many people listening will say, "But I've done worse than a small mistake." That may be true, but the principle still holds. Punishment is not the same as wisdom. Punishment keeps you stuck. Wisdom helps you repair. Buddhism invites you to see your actions clearly without hatred, to regret harm without turning regret into identity. That's the compassion pivot. So what does the wholesome thought look like in real life? It can be, this is suffering. I need compassion. I can learn without cruelty. I regret this, and I will repair. I am not my worst moment. Tonight, I rest. These are not excuses. They are a shift from war to healing. Now, let's connect this to the Buddha's emphasis on non-harming. Non-harming includes your inner speech. When your inner speech is violent, constant blame, insults, doom, it harms you. And harm is not the path. So tonight, you can practice non-harming inwardly with one thought. I won't attack myself. That one sentence is a vow. And vows shape destiny because they shape behavior. Now, here is a guided practice segment you can include in your video, designed to bring the compassion pivot into the body and support sleep. Lie down. Let your body be heavy. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now bring to mind one thing you feel guilty or tense about. Just one. Notice the inner voice. Notice if it is harsh. Now name it softly. War. Yes, war. Now plant one wholesome thought. This is suffering. Compassion is needed. Place a hand on your chest. On each exhale, repeat, I can learn without cruelty. Let the words land in the body, not just the mind. Now make one gentle plan for repair. One small step, not a life sentence. Tomorrow I will. Apologize. Correct. Clarify. Rest. Ask for help. Set a boundary. Then release the rest. Say, tonight I rest. Tomorrow, one step. Return to breath. End with this vow. May I be free from self-harming thoughts. May I be at ease. This is the compassion pivot. It doesn't make you less responsible. It makes you more whole. And a whole mind sleeps better than a mind at war. The night seed. One good thought before sleep shapes tomorrow. We're closing part B now, and it's fitting to end with something your audience can do immediately tonight. Because Buddhism is not only philosophy, it's practice. And one small practice, done consistently, shapes the mind like water shaping stone. The Buddha taught that what we repeatedly think and intend becomes our direction, not because the world is a vending machine, but because the mind becomes a garden. You grow what you water. So if you want mot niem thien, doi kavan, you don't wait for a perfect day. You plant one wholesome thought at the end of an imperfect day. This is the night seed. Here's a story about a night seed that changed a man's mornings. A man named Henry had a habit of ending his days in his phone. He would lie in bed and scroll news, arguments, random videos until his eyes burned. He told himself it helped him wind down, but the truth was the opposite. His mind stayed wired. His sleep got lighter. His mornings felt foggy. He began waking up, already behind. Henry didn't think of this as a spiritual issue. He thought of it as normal modern life. But he also felt something deeper. He was losing his peace. One night, after a particularly anxious day, Henry caught himself scrolling through an argument online. His chest tightened, his jaw clenched, his mind was feeding anger before sleep. He felt himself getting pulled into the same loop. Stimulation, agitation, insomnia, exhaustion, more stimulation. Then a simple, wholesome thought rose almost like a quiet voice inside. Plant something better. Henry set the phone down, not because he became disciplined overnight, but because he felt tired of feeding the wrong thing. He remembered a Buddhist-inspired phrase he had heard somewhere. End the day with a gentle mind. So he chose one night seed. One sentence he would repeat 3 times before sleep. May I be at ease. That was it. He said it once and felt silly. He said it twice and felt a small softness. He said it the 3rd time and noticed his breath slow down. Then he added a 2nd seed. May others be at ease. He didn't even have a specific person in mind. He just widened the heart a little. Henry wasn't perfect after that. Some nights he still scrolled. Some nights he forgot. But on the nights he planted the seed, "May I be at ease," his sleep improved. Not always immediately, but over time, something changed. His nervous system learned a new bedtime association. Bed wasn't a place to fight the world. Bed became a place to soften. Then another change came. His mornings felt kinder. He was less reactive at breakfast. He was more patient in traffic. He wasn't as sharp with coworkers. He started noticing how a single night seed affected the whole next day. This is karma in daily life. What you plant at night becomes the tone of tomorrow. Now, the night seed can be different for different people. Some people need forgiveness. Some need courage. Some need rest. Some need boundaries. Some need gratitude. But the power is the same. One wholesome thought before sleep. Here are examples of night seeds your audience can choose from. May I be at ease. Tonight, I release. Tonight, I do not add harm. I can learn without cruelty. Tomorrow, one small step. Here, now. May I be safe. May my heart soften. These are not spells. They are training phrases. They aim your mind like a compass. And if your audience wants a more Buddhist flavor, you can frame it as loving kindness, metta, a classic practice. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I live with ease. Again, not as a guarantee of external events, but as a cultivation of inner conditions. Now, some people will say, "But my mind is too loud." That's exactly why the seed is short. When the mind is loud, long teachings feel overwhelming. A short seed is something you can hold. The seed becomes a rope you can grab when the mind tries to drag you into chaos. Now, to close part B, let's offer a complete bedtime ritual that fits the whole theme of this script. One wholesome thought that changes fate. One long exhale. One softening of the body. Jaw. Blading. Shoulders. One night seed phrase, repeated 3 times. Return to breath. That's enough. The point is consistency, not perfection. Now, here is a guided meditation segment you can read slowly to close part B, 8, and lead into your conclusion later. Lie down. Feel the bed holding you. Let your shoulders drop. Relax your jaw. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Now choose one wholesome thought, your night seed. Choose one. May I be at ease. Or tonight I release. Or tonight I do not add harm. Repeat it slowly, 3 times. Let it land in the chest. Now, if you wish, extend it outward. May others be at ease. Return to breath. Inhale, here. Exhale, now. If thoughts come, let them come. If thoughts go, let them go. You are not fighting the mind. You are planting a seed. And with this gentle vow, one good thought is enough for tonight. Because the path is built from small things, and small things repeated, become a new life. Tonight, you don't need to become a different person. You only need one different thought, one wholesome seed that turns the mind a few degrees away from suffering and toward peace. The Buddha's path is built this way, not by forcing life, but by training the heart. A kind thought, a patient pause, a gentle truth, a small release. Each one is a quiet choice not to add harm inside or outside. And those quiet choices change what you do, what you notice, what you repeat, and who you become. So as you lie here now, let the past be the past. Let the future be tomorrow's work. For tonight, return to this breath. Choose your night seed and repeat it softly. May I be at ease. Or, tonight, I release. Or, I can learn without cruelty. You're not casting a spell. You're shaping your inner conditions so your life can meet you with a clearer mind. One good thought is enough for tonight. Let it be simple. Let it be sincere. Let it be yours. And if you wake again later, return again. That return is practice. That return is compassion. Good night.